Today we're going to be looking at slopes of a line, but we're going to look at it in an algebraic sense today instead of looking at it from the graphing point of view. So I want you to be able today to just be able to figure out what the slope is by either solving it algebraically or by looking at an equation and figuring it out that way. But to give you the gist of what the slope of a line is, it's basically if let's say I drew a line here, okay, like that. The slope is either its increase, okay, how much it's increasing, see how there's a little, it's how steep it is right here, or if you are going the other way, a line could also be looking that way, okay, or how downward it could be, okay, so it's basically looking at how steep a line is, and we'll figure out how to do that in the next couple of days graphing wise. So like I said, today I want you to be able to solve this out and figure out how to even just first off identify a slope in an equation. And so the universal variable that we use for the slope is the letter m, okay? So when you see the letter m, that usually means we're talking about a line, and m specifically is the slope of that line, so how steep it is, okay? And so there's three situations that you could have when they ask you to find the slope of a line. The first one is if they give you 2 points. So here's my ordered pairs. Remember, they're each separated with a comma. This is x, and this is y. This is x, and this is y. And since we have 2 points, I'm going to put a little number here just so that we know which point is which. So since this first parenthesis is the first ordered pair, I'm going to put a little 1 here just to show us that it's the first set of points. And then here I'm going to put a little 2 here just so we know it's the second set of points. So this doesn't mean square the point. If it was squared, I would have put the little 2 above the x. When we have, I'm putting it on the bottom of the x in the corner just so that you know it's the second set of points, the first set of points, okay? And they give us a special equation when they give us 2 points. Basically, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What does that mean? You go to your 2 points, you take the second y, and you subtract the first y from it, and then underneath in the denominator you take the second x and subtract the first x from it, okay? Another way they might give you a line is in this thing called slope-intercept form, which you will become pros at by the end of this chapter. And a slope-intercept form looks like this. It's an equation of a line where we have y by itself, and then on the other side of the equal sign we have this thing called m, which is our slope, which you guys know, x plus b. The thing you need to remember today is that the slope m is whatever number is in front of x. So if you find a line that's in slope-intercept form, find x, and it's the number right in front of x. The key thing, you guys, for slope-intercept form is that y is by itself. Okay, so you know it's a slope-intercept form problem when y it's by itself, because the third way that you can do this is by finding the slope in standard form, and standard form looks like this, where you have a x plus by equals c, and if you look at this, see how in number 2 the y is by itself, but in number 3 x and y are on the same side of the equal sign, so x is right here, y is right here, they're both on the same side of the equal sign. That's how you can tell the difference. It's really your preference. You can put anything in slope-intercept form, or you can put anything in standard form, but it's your preference. I'm just giving you ways that might be a little bit easier. But basically, to find the slope from a line in standard form, remember standard form means that they are both on the same side. What you do is you take a, which is the number in front of x, you take b, which is the number in front of y, and for both of these situations you take the sign that's in front of it too. And once you've written those numbers and their signs, you put in a parenthesis and throw a negative in the front, because it's going to take the opposite of that, okay? So a way you can be able to tell that it's a standard form is x and y are on the same side, okay? So let's piece some of these together, you guys, and figure out what would be the best way to figure out what the slope is. So looking at number 1, so your directions are just to find the slope. So looking at number 1, I have 2 points, negative 2, 3, and then 3, 1. So looking at our choices up here, what would make sense to use? 1, 2, or 3? 1 would probably make more sense, right, because there's 2 points. So if it helps you, let's label this. So here's my x1, here's my y1, x2, y2, and remember, this doesn't mean square them or whatever. All this is just to help us label, okay? So if we plug it into this equation, m equals, on the top of the fraction, remember we have y2 minus y1. y2 is 1, y1 is 3, and then on the bottom of the fraction we have x2 minus x1, so we have 3 minus, and then x1 is negative 2, that's why I put in a parenthesis. Okay, so what do I have here? I have 1 minus 3 is negative 2. What does this combination give me, you guys, this negative negative? Gives me a plus, right? So what I'm really going to be doing is 3 plus 2, which is 5. So our final slope for this is negative 2 over 5. Okay. So number 2 is really similar. I have 2 points. Which one would make sense? 1, 2, or 3? 1 would make sense. So here's my x1, y1, x2, y2. So here's my m equals, and then we go y2 is, the y's go on the top, so we start with y2, 8 minus, and then here's 4. That's my y1. Now I go to the x's. x2 is negative 5, and then we go minus 0. We simplify. 8 minus 4 is 4. And then on the bottom I have negative 5 minus 0, which is just going to stay negative 5. So my slope for this is negative 4 over 5, or m equals negative 4 over 5. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and look at 3 and 4 and the rest of them, I guess. I can get it straight. Okay, so hopefully you wrote down the different ways to find the slope, because obviously I can't see it on the screen anymore. So here we go with number 3. Y equals negative 2 over 7 x minus 4. So looking at your different ways to find the slope, what would make the most sense? Option 2. This is in slope-intercept form, right? How did we know? Because y is by itself. Okay, we knew it was slope-intercept because y is by itself. So when it's in slope-intercept form, you need to find x. So looking, up, here's x. What's the number right in front of it? The number right in front of it is negative 2 over 7. So that's my slope. M equals negative 2 over 7. So the slope-intercept form ones are easy. Okay, so when it's in slope-intercept and y is by itself, then we just look for x, and it's the number in front of x. Okay. Looking here at number 4, we go y equals 6 minus 11x. So this one's a little different, but what does it look like the most? Is it 2 points? Is y by itself, or is x and y on the same side? 2 points, y by itself, or is x and y on the same side? Y is by itself, right? So this is probably a slope-intercept form. Okay. And so all we do is we look for x. Where's x? Where's x? It's not in its usual place, right? So this is not in the best order that we would like, but the book will try and trick you. So just look for x when you find a slope-intercept form. The number that's right in front of it and its sign is important. So my m equals negative 11. Okay? All right. Let's jump down. 5, 6, 7. Here we go. So 5, do we have 2 points? No. Do we have y by itself? No. X and y are on the same side. Oh, so x and y are on the same side. So that means it's probably going to be standard form. Okay, same side. So standard form means that we look for a, which is the number in front of x. So there's a. We look for b, which is the number in front of y. and we take their signs too. So remember the equation, if you guys forgot, is right here for standard form. A over B, and then you throw a negative in the front. Okay, so A is 6 in this case. B is -4. Okay, we put that in a parenthesis and throw a negative in the front. So lots of things are going to happen here. The negative and negative is definitely going to make my answer positive. Okay, what about the 6 over 4? What's that going to reduce to? It's going to reduce to 3 over 2, right? So my slope for this is 3 over 2. So like, this isn't meant to confuse you guys. The standard form and slope-intercept can be used interchangeably, but this is just fast. If you can recognize right away, oh, this is a line in slope-intercept form. Let me just find what m is. Oh, this is a line in standard form because x and y are on the same side. Let's do negative a over b. So it could save you some time if you can remember these patterns to see them, okay? But you can use them interchangeably if you just decide to move everything over to the other side and get y by itself by hand, or you decide to just move x and y on the same side and find it that way. So it's really up to you, but if you can notice this right from the get-go, this is going to be faster for you, okay? Let's jump to 6. So 2 points. No. Is y by itself? No, because x and y are both on the same side. Okay, so let's figure out what a is. Let's figure out what b is. Remember, a is the number in front of x, so that goes there. B is the number in front of y, so that's 9. Okay, so to figure out what my slope is, I take a, which is -10, over b, which is +9, and then I throw a negative in front of it. And so you always throw negative in front of it, you guys, so that's part of the equation. That's going to make this answer positive. 10 over 9 cannot be reduced. So final answer for this is positive 10 over 9. Okay. Let's try one more. This one's obviously in standard form because x and y are on the same side, but I wanted to show you this because this might be a tricky one for you. So using the same equation, my a is the number that's in front of x. There is no number in front of x right now. But what do we know when there's no number in front of x? What do we say that number is? We say that number is 1, okay? So my a is 1. My b is 2. Put in a parenthesis, throw a negative in front of it. I'm not going to have any sign changes, so my final answer for this is -1/2. And this one rule, you guys, applies to everything all the time, okay? So if you, even with slope-intercept form, if you don't see a number in front of x or y, or you always just assume it's 1, okay? So there's, we're almost done. I just have a few more problems to show you. There's some special scenarios, you guys, for these types of problems. We call it a zero slope and no slope. So all the ones we solved for in the previously in the last couple of minutes was all had an actual number as a slope, but sometimes there's a zero slope and sometimes there's a no slope. And the way that that happens is that happens usually when one of the letters are missing, like we do not have an X and we do not have a Y. Okay, so let's start with the no slope. There's no slope when there's no Y. So we have no Y, but we do have an X. Okay, there's a zero slope when we have no X, but we do have a Y. So this is just today, remember, it's just to help you identify what the slope is. I will show you how to do this on the graphing in the next few days and what that exactly means, okay? So if you look at the problem and there's no X, but there is a Y, the slope is 0. If you look at the problem and there's no Y, but there is an X, then we say that we have a no slope. Okay, so let's look at this. Number 8. Looking at the problem, I definitely only have one variable. Which one do I have? I have an X. Okay, so going up here, yes, I have an X. I don't have a Y. So number 8 must be a no slope because there's no Y. Okay. Looking at number 9, even if you don't want to get y by itself, just looking at this, you definitely only have one variable. You only have y. Okay, so going up to our little grid here, yes, I have a y. No, I do not have an x. So this has to be a 0 slope. So you just put 0. The slope is 0. That's how much it's worth. Okay. In number 10, looking at number 10, only one variable. I see a y. So yes, I have a y. No, I do not have an x. So again, I have a 0 slope. Excuse me. And in number 11, only one variable. I see an x. I do not have a y, so this is no slope. Okay. So what might be confusing is you're like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at number 8, and why can't the slope just be 3 over 2? It cannot be these numbers, you guys, because um, it follows special rules since it doesn't have an xy pair. It has to have an xy in the equation for you to do it the way we did on the other window that we were working on. So these are the special cases when you are missing one of the letters. So these are your only two choices. When you're missing one of the letters, there's no algebra involved. You just have to remember, yes, there's a y, and no, there's an x to 0 slope. Yes, there's an x. No, there's a y. It's no slope, okay? So because there's only one variable, it gets treated in a different way. You only have two options, but as long as you can remember this, the math is, there's basically no math involved for that, okay? So that's it, and don't forget to take the quiz.